In notes number 2, we're going to talk about inequalities and hinge theorem with triangles. So first off, we're going to look at what makes a triangle. So what do we need for the lengths of the sides? And we need the sum of the two smallest sides must be greater than the third side. So that means when we're looking at example 1a, we need to determine if the three lengths would be possible to make a triangle. And we need to take the two smallest sides, so that'd be 1 and 2, and we need to add them together. And then we are going to compare it to the third side. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and that's equal to 3, but we need it to be greater than the third side, so this would not make a triangle. For letter B, the two smallest sides are 21 and 18, and you always want to watch out for that because they do mix around the numbers. If we add 18 and 21 together, we get a 39, and we want to ask ourselves, how does that compare to the 32 for the longest side? And it is greater than, so that is a triangle. So yes, it makes a triangle. For letter C, I want you now to do this one by yourself. You should have added your 2 and your 6 together, and you get 8. And then you're comparing that to the third side, so the 11, and that is less than, so no, it does not make a triangle because it's not greater than the third side. So now for what the range is of the values of the third side, if we have two of them, we need to use that same idea that the two sides need to be greater than the third side. And we have the missing side must be greater than the difference of the two given sides. And it has to be less than the sum of the two given sides. And that's because we don't know if the two sides we have, one of them could be the large side, one could be a smaller side, so that's why we do the difference of the two of them. And then the second way is we find out the sum of the two sides that are given to us, and then we make sure that our third side will be less than that because that makes those bigger than the third side. So for two sides that we have is 5 and 11, we want to figure out what two sides, or given the two sides, what's the value of our third side? What is it going to fall between? So we're going to write this as an inequality. So our third side we're going to say is an x, and we know it has to be less than a certain number, and it has to be greater than a certain number. So that's where when we add them, so 5 plus 11, we get 16, and that's on the large end. And then if we subtract the two numbers, we get 6. So our range is between 6 and 16. Now notice it's not equal to. So if we had a third side of our triangle that was 6 itself, that would not work because it would not make a triangle. It needs to be bigger than 6. So 6.1 would work, and that means if we add the two smaller sides together, then it would be greater than the 11. All right, for letter B, we're going to do the same thing now. So set up your inequality, and to find the larger of the two, we're going to add them together. For right here, so 21 plus 27 is 48, and then to find the smaller number, we're subtracting the two of them. So the difference between 27 and 21 is 6 again. So we have our third side could be between 6 and 48. For letter C, I want you now to do this one yourself and set up the inequality. You should have set up, if we add them together, you get 21 for this side, and if you subtract them, you get a 5 for the left side. So the number has to be between 5 and 21. When we are looking at a triangle, given the side lengths of our triangle, we can determine which side is the largest and smallest and the medium side, but we can also use that to determine the angle size and how they compare to each other. We don't know the exact measure of the angles, but we can put them in order from smallest to largest or largest to smallest. So here we want to color the largest angle and the longest side the same color. So first we have the sides. So the longest side is our 15. Because that is our longest side, the angle across from it, so angle B over here, is going to be the largest angle. Now if we do the same thing for the smallest angle and the shortest side then is going to be the 10, and then our shortest angle or smallest angle is going to be this angle C over here. And what do we notice about the location of the largest angle and the longest side? Is that they are across from each other. And the same is true for the smallest side and the smallest angle. So for example 3, we want to list the sides of the triangle in order from shortest to longest. But before we can label the sides, we need to know what the angles are, because otherwise we can't organize the angles in the same way, and then find the sides that match up with them. So we know that in a triangle, all three of our angles add up to be equal to 180 degrees. So we can take 180 and subtract off the 80 and the 60, and we are left with 40 degrees. So that means angle N is 40 degrees. Now we want to, if we want to color code this the same way, we want to go from the shortest. So let's do shortest first. So smallest angle is our angle N. That means the smallest side has to be across it on the other side of my triangle. So that would be side LM. And one thing to do if we want shortest to longest, we want the medium side as well, but we're going to do the longest and just leave a space in between. So we know the largest angle is angle M, so that means the side across from it, this LN, is going to be the side that is the longest. That way, that the leftover side is our one in the middle. So 60 is kind of the medium angle, and across from that then is our side MN. And that would be our medium sides. This is shortest to longest. Always make sure you pay attention to the directions because sometimes that will switch around. Now we're looking at the sides and we want to list the angles now from smallest to largest. So we do the same thing. The smallest side is our 10, so across from that will be our angle Z. So that's the first angle because that's the shortest, so the smallest side. Then the largest side is our 17, and that's our angle X, so leave a space in between because we still need our medium one there. And then our 15 is the medium side. That gives us angle Y then is going to be the medium angle. And remember, we don't know what the actual measures of those angles are, but we can list them from smallest to largest or largest to smallest, just in order of how they compare to each other. All right, so for the multiple choice question, let's go ahead and draw our triangle and put all your measurements that you are given in your triangle. All right, so we are looking at two different triangles, and this is the information they give us. I kind of color-coded what parts they gave us up here, up above. And we need to figure out what is a reasonable number for the measure of angle F. So remember, we don't know exactly what the measurement is, but we can guess if it's going to be bigger or smaller than 65 degrees. So if we have two sides that are congruent to each other in our triangles, but we can look at the third side and we can see that this triangle has a larger piece there. This one is 18, so it's a little bit smaller. What does that tell us then about that angle that is across from it? So if we have these two congruent sides, we can kind of ignore those, but we do need to use the side that kind of connects those two together. And if this one is larger than the 18, then that tells us that this angle over here will also compare the same way. So that tells us that if this is longer and this is shorter, then that means that this angle F should be larger and this one should be smaller. So we know what the 65 is, so we are looking for an angle that is bigger than 65. So again, we're looking for an angle that is larger than 65 degrees. So if we look at our answer choices, A and D are both smaller than 65, so we do not want those because that doesn't meet our requirements. And then letter B is equal to 65. That doesn't work because that's not greater than or larger than. But letter C, or 70 degrees, that's the one that is larger than 65 degrees. So that is a reasonable answer then for the angle F.